platform, guys, where we educate the masses on how to free themselves from the plantation of taxation, legally, ethically, and morally. We wish each and every one of you financial freedom from the current system of debt. You must rid yourself of all debt if you want any shot of being truly financially independent. Warren Buffett said, if you don't find a way to make money work for you while you're sleeping, you're going to work until you die. And so over the course of the next few minutes, guys, I'm going to be sharing with you some knowledge about gold and how gold is money. You know, many people don't realize today here in the 21st century that the United States dollar used to be backed by physical gold. That means that all of the money that was in circulation had to have an amount of gold equal to the dollar that was in circulation. Today, what's backing your dollar? Nothing but debt. And so before I jump into this information, I want to share some knowledge with you about an entity that controls the value of our money, controls the banking system, controls the interest rates, and they're called the Federal Reserve. And a little history about the Federal Reserve is that the Federal Reserve is not part of the federal government. But let's take a look at what the Federal Reserve calls a liability on their books. And so here we are at the Federal Reserve website, and I'm going to read what the Federal Reserve says is the major liability on their balance sheet. Are you guys ready? Okay, well, let's go and take a look. It says Federal Reserve liability. Okay, so again, guys, it says Federal Reserve liabilities. I'm going to highlight where I'm reading. It says, the major items on the liability side of the Federal Reserve balance sheet are Federal Reserve notes. I want you to pause right now and pull out a paper dollar bill out of your pocket, and I want you to read on the front of it what it says it is. It goes on to say, U.S. paper currency and the deposit that thousands of depository institutions, the U.S. Treasury, and others hold in accounts at Federal Reserve banks. I want to spend a little bit of time on this, guys, because I often say that people lie, but numbers don't. And I also make a statement that says that people lie, but facts doesn't. It doesn't matter what your assumption is. Here is the Federal Reserve, the entity that controls the value of the money that you trade your time for, saying to you, the major items on the liability side of the Federal Reserve balance sheet is Federal Reserve notes. And they took the time, guys, to explain to you what exactly they're talking about. U.S. paper currency and the deposits that thousands of depository institutions, the United States Treasury, think about that for a moment, and others hold in accounts where? At Federal Reserve banks. And guys, what this simply means is that if you're saving for your future in paper dollars, U.S. paper currency, if the entity that creates it, if the entity that controls it says that it is what? A liability on their balance sheet, what should it be in your bank account? I want you guys to marinate on that as I share with you 106 years of history about real money, and that is real money gold. Okay, so guys, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about inflation and how inflation robs you of your wealth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up an inflation calculator, and again, we're going to go over 106 years of whether or not if you had saved your money in gold equal to the dollar amount saved in, let's say, your 401k account or your IRA account or under your mattress, would you have been better off saving that paper money in gold versus saving it in paper? Well, again, I often say that people lie, but numbers don't. So let's jump into the information. We're going to look from 1913 to 2019. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to jump over and I want to see what the price of 1 ounce of gold was in 1913. And I'm going to do that by way of a site called Only Gold, okay? And this guy has 200 years of the history of gold prices. Again, we're going to go down in 1913 and look at what 1 ounce of gold was in 1913. And so as you can see, the chart is going to show you in the far left corner the year. It's going to show you what gold closed at during that year, and it's going to show you the change in price from the previous year. Okay, let's go and take a look at what 1 ounce of gold was in 1913. Okay, so we can see in 1913 that 1 ounce of gold was worth $20.67. We're going to roll that up to $21. Now, I want to share with you why I'm starting at 1913. Some very critical things happened in this year that affected the value of our money. In 1913, the Federal Reserve was voted in by a small portion of Congress to take over control of our money system, our banking system, our interest system. And since the Federal Reserve, which is not a part of the federal government, has taken over our monetary system, what you're going to learn is that the American dollar has declined in purchasing power each year after 1913. And so again, guys, 1 ounce of gold in 1913 was $21 per ounce. So what we want to do is we want to determine if you had saved your money equally in gold versus saving in paper dollars for 30 years. And we're going to go through 30-year increments, okay? Why do I use 30 years? Because most people will work at least 30 years of their life to save for retirement. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go to 1913 on an inflation calculator, and I want to know what $20 in US dollars, what the inflation was over a 30-year period, which would be 1943. Okay, so here I'm going to use this CPI inflation calculator. And guys, simple math. We're just going to go here and we're going to say $21, which was the value of 1 ounce of gold when? In 1913. And we're going to go 30 years out to 1943. And so what I want to know is if I had $21 in paper money and I saved it under my mattress, I put it in my piggy bank, I didn't invest it, I never earned any interest, I didn't stick it in a retirement account. Guys, look, the money that you're going to save should never be a part of the money that you want to invest. You invest the amount of money that you're willing to lose, and you save the amount of money that you're willing to save, but you save it in a real asset called gold. And so let's go ahead and hit the calculation. Okay, so let's go ahead and read the results. U.S. inflation rate, $21, which was equal to an ounce of gold in 1913, 30 years later to 1943. And so let's assume that you saved 21 U.S. paper dollars under your mattress or in your piggy bank from 1913 to 1943. And let's assume that I saved $21 in physical gold. So equal dollar amounts, guys. I want to make sure I'm very clear on this. We're not talking about, again, investment. It says, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Consumer Price Index, prices in 1943 are 74.75% higher than the average prices throughout 1913. Let me say that again, and we're going to go ahead and round this up to an even number. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Consumer Price Index, prices in 1943, and we're talking about $21, are 75% higher than the average price throughout 1913. The dollar experienced an average inflation rate of 1.88% per year during this period. Okay, let me go ahead and continue to read what it says here. It says, in other words, 21 US dollars in 1913 is the equivalent in purchasing power of $36.70 in 1943. That is a difference of $15.70 over a 30-year period. So guys, let me go ahead and break this down so even a caveman can understand. If you took $21 in 1913 and you put it under your mattress, 30 years later, guys, 30 years later, you would need $36.70 to be able to buy what the $21 purchased you in 1913. That means that your money would have had to grow in value by $15.70 without putting it at risk in an investment. So let's go and see how gold did. So you want to make sure that you pay very close attention to the percentage in which your paper dollar lost value, 75%. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take that $21, convert it into physical gold, and we're going to add that 75% of inflation. And guys, what you can see is that means that gold would have to increase from $21 to $37. And what you can see here is that gold did increase from $21 to $36.50, which is roughly close to 75%. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, how did that happen? Because gold is money. All right, let me go ahead and clear this out. And now, guys, let's go ahead and look at another 30 years. So if you're writing this down, you want to write down in 1943, 1 ounce of gold was $36.50. Now we're going to go from 1943 to 1973, and let's see if gold maintained its value. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and change this to $36 from 1943, and we're going to go 30 years out to when? 1973. What we want to know is what was the inflation over that 30-year period. So let me hit calculate. So again, it says U.S. inflation rate, $36 in 1943 to 1973, which is 30 years. Here are the results. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index, prices in 1973 are 156.65, so we're going to go ahead and round that up to 157% higher than the average prices throughout 1943. The dollar experienced an average inflation rate of 3.19% during that period. Again, guys, what you're looking at is that the dollar decreased in purchasing power by 157%. Let's go ahead and continue reading. It says, in other words, 36 US dollars in 1943 is the equivalent of purchasing power of $92.39 in 1973, a difference of $56.39. I want to make sure you guys really understand what you're learning here because it will change your life. That means if you took $36 and you put it in your piggy bank in 1943, or you saved it for retirement, never invested it, guys, in 1973, now, guess what? You would need $92.39 to equal the purchasing power of that $36 30 years prior. That is $56.39 more that your $36 would have to somehow increase under your mattress or in your piggy bank, which you know that was not going to happen over 30 years. Now, let's go take a look at gold from 1943 to 1973, simply converting the 36 US dollars into physical gold and never earning any interest. Let's take a look. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so here we can see in 1973, 1 ounce of gold increased from $36 in 1943 to $106.48. That was a total increase, guys, just from 1972 to 1973 at 66.79%. But what we want to know is, did gold maintain its purchasing power from 1943 to 1973 based on the inflation calculator? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that $36 per ounce, or $36 in U.S. paper currency, and I'm going to acquire that 1 ounce of gold. I'm going to put it under my mattress from 1943 to 1973. Now what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to add that 157% of inflation to gold, and that means that in order for gold to protect you against inflation, the price should have increased from $36 to $93 per ounce. Well, we can see right here in 1973, we can see that 1 ounce of gold did much better than that. Guys, it increased to $106.48. So once again, using equal paper dollars converted into gold, both simply saved, we have found that gold has protected you against inflation. Okay, now we're going to do another 30 years from 1973 to 2003. So what do we want to know? We want to know, what was the inflation rate from 1973 to 2003. So let's bring up our inflation calculator. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take the price of that 1 ounce of gold of $106 in 1973. So we're going to change the year here. And we're going to go now to 2003. So I want to know, if I had taken 106 U.S. paper dollars in 1973 and I saved it for 30 years to 2003, or if I took 106 U.S. paper dollars and I converted it into physical gold, I want to know, did gold protect me against inflation? Well, as I hit calculate, and ladies and gentlemen, the results are this, is that $106 in U.S. paper has lost purchasing power once again. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index, prices in 2003 are 314.41%. Let's go ahead and round that up to 315%, higher than the average prices in 1973. The U.S. dollar experienced an average inflation rate of 4.85% during this period. In other words, 106 U.S. dollars in 1973 is the equivalent in purchasing power of $439.28 in 2003. A difference of how much? Guys, $333 over 30 years. So again, if you had saved 106 paper dollars under your mattress in 1973, in 2003, guys, it would have taken you $439.28 to live the same lifestyle, to buy the same amount of groceries, to get the same amount of services and goods that $106 30 years prior afforded you. That is a difference of $333 that you got to figure out how to get your paper dollars to increase without putting it at risk in the stock market. Okay, so let's go see if gold protected us against the inflation, guys, at 315% from 1973 to 2003. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to blow your mind. And so in 2003, from 1973